You'll have to sign her oath too. Because we don't have a chairman yet, so I just put you as vice chair. Go ahead and sign it. That way we can get all that.
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma, and that I will not knowingly receive directly or indirectly any money or other valuable thing for the performance or non-performance of any act or duty pertaining to my office, other than the compensation allowed by law. I further swear or affirm that I will faithfully discharge my duties as board member of the Durant Industrial Authority to the best of my ability. All right, and that is it. So this is cool. You get to sign right there. Oh, you're very welcome.
Are you kin to James Kirkendall?
That's my brother.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, okay.
Oh my goodness. See what you got.
I'll fix it.
But tell them I said it.
All right. Well, that you can go on up and participate in that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Engage it when the green light's on.
Thanks everyone for working with us. We'll now call the Durant Industrial Authority meeting for January 2nd, 2024 to order. We'll call the roll, please.
Brett Rogers,
Here.
Michael Davis,
Here.
Grace Rudolph. Here. Mona Campbell. Here. Kara Kirkendall. Thomas Newsom. Jeff Hammock. Tammy Gwynn.
Thank you. I overlooked the invocation, so I'll give that, and then we'll move on with the rest of the agenda. Please bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, humbled before your presence, before the presence of our citizens here in Durant. We're thankful for another year. Please bless us and the decisions we make for the betterment of our community and the businesses in which we hope to bring to the community as well as keep in our community. Thank you for the trustees that serve and for the citizens that help out. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, moving on to order of business, consent items. 1A, consideration of approval of minutes for the December 5th meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve.
Second.
First and a second. If no comments, we'll move on with the vote.
Michael Davis,
Yes.
Brett Rogers,
Yes.
Grace Rudolph,
Yes.
Mona Campbell,
Yes.
Kara Kirkendall.
Same.
Very good. Are you throwing our approvals up? Again, Kara abstained since she wasn't here, but it sounded like we had enough for approval. 2, consider items removed from consent. There are none, so we'll move into informational items. Turn it over to Paul, interim director's report.
Okay, Project Timber, I guess is somewhat at impasse now. We knew that there was a gas line on the property, and the location of the gas line, as shown on the survey, is of concern to the prospect. And the prospect informed me that they'd have to evaluate whether or not to proceed on that tract and determine whether it's feasible to construct a road or paving over the gas line. It is the main gas line that comes to Durant, by the way. It's not just a small gas line, it's a large, high-pressure gas line. So we're waiting on the prospect to get back with us on that. Southwest pickling mitigation. Did meet on site with Robert Smith of United Manufacturing and Distribution, who has the contract to mitigate the site, and they've been waiting on permissions, I guess, from DEQ and to proceed with the mitigation, which testing, draining of tanks, processing sludge, and dismantling and removing the tanks from the site. So that should be moving forward here pretty quickly. As you're aware, been planning for the acquisition of additional land for industrial sites. Texas Specialty Metals is here to give a presentation here in a little bit. And I did visit with Matt Hunt, and also reviewed the current incentive policies, and I have more on that later in the meeting. Attended the open house at the Charterpreneur Business Center, and met with a potential developer for retail in Durant. Discussions with OG&E Economic Development about potential joint development of industrial sites. Met with Christy Eidelman, Economic Development Manager for OG&E, to discuss this, and she's aware that we are planning to acquire additional sites, so at some point we want to share that with her and see if there's anything we could do jointly. There's a Texoma Semiconductor Innovation Consortium, which is a grant program through the Economic Development Administration, and there's kind of a feasibility phase initially where there's more of a planning grant, and I think they're now moving toward applying for an implementation grant, which could be a rather large grant. Trying to find out more about that and how that would directly impact Durant, Bryan County. Meeting with a site locator for a clean energy project, and determined that was not anywhere close to Durant. It was closer to Colbert, actually. So referred that site locator. And attended the council meeting, and I think we're close to getting access to updating our website. There's been apparently it's not just a simple thing to get authorization to make changes to it, and I've been assured that that should be happening shortly. Any questions?
Any questions for Paul? If not, we'll move on to 3B, which is the December sales tax report. Those numbers should be in your packet. Again, looks like from a year-to-date perspective, up nearly 3%. Again, Durant continues to do well from a tax collection, which does feed into the DIA. So let me scroll to the actual numbers in here. So the sales tax collection, of course, a fourth comes into our fund, which is just under 104,000 for the past month. Collections for the city were 415,785, up about 1% from last year to month, and of course on a trailing 12 year-to-date growth, 2.62%. So continued growth upwards. Hopefully the city continues to do well, and we'll continue to fund the sales tax driven. Paul, anything else to report from a sales tax?
No.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move to 3C, December financial report per the packet. Of course, with the January 2nd meeting today, Ann Chin hasn't had a chance to reconcile the books. Those financials will be coming out later in the week or as soon as she can prepare them, and Paul will forward those to the board at that time. If any questions are had, we can take those up offline or recap next month. Any other comments on that, Paul? And do we have a date? We expecting that later this week, or will it be next week?
Later this week.
Okay. So check your emails. We'll get those sent around. 4A, administration. So oath of office. Appreciate Cindy taking time. So 4A has taken place. So if everyone will welcome Kara Kuykendall to the board. Welcome, Kara. We look forward to you serving with us, and appreciate you doing that. Of course, Kara sits on the board representing one of the banks that rotates every few years, takes the seat of Jeff Hammock, which is stepping off of the board. So, Kara, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. 4B, consideration of the election of the chairman of Durant Industrial Authority. So, I served as vice chair previously under Jeff. If there are no other takers, I will allow someone to nominate me.
Make a motion that we nominate Brett Rogers as chairman.
Second.
Please, opposition? No? None?
None.
All right, we'll call for the vote.
Mike Davis. Brett Rogers.
Abstain.
Grace Rudolph.
Yes.
Martin Tucker.
Yes.
Mona Campbell.
Yes.
Kara Kuykendall.
Yes.
Thank you all so kindly. So with me moving on 4B with that approval, that frees up vice chairman duties. I did send out a few texts today. Sorry for the late notices. I didn't want to have all vacant seats on the board. Dr. Newsom is out of the country, but did say he would be willing to serve as vice chairman if no one else had that interest. So you guys are here. Anyone else have an interest in serving as vice chairman? If not, I'll make a motion to elect Dr. Thomas Newsom as vice chair.
Seconded.
Very good. Let's move forward with the vote.
Mike Davis.
Yes.
Brett Rogers.
Yes.
Grace Rudolph.
Yes.
Martin Tucker.
Yes.
Mona Campbell.
Yes.
Kara.
Yes.
Very good. Congratulations. When he gets back to the States, we'll welcome him as the new vice chairman of the DIA. Stepping into 4D, consideration election of treasurer of the Durant Industrial Authority. I was serving in this capacity as well just for the past few months after Jeff had left. So I don't know if anyone has that interest of being treasurer. I know Kara is a banker, but we just now put her on the board. And so as a courtesy to her, unless she's just dying to do it today, would be
One-time only courtesy.
yeah, a one-time only courtesy of delaying this appointment for 30 days, which may still come to her, but at least give her 30 days awareness and that we don't have any financials. So, hey,
Right.
Perfect. So my recommendation would be to wait on 4D, let the ink dry on her new resolution of being signed in and sworn into the DIA. Anyone else have an interest in serving as the treasurer? If not, we'll take this offline over the next few days, month, and regroup next week. So if there's nothing else, we'll take no action on 4D today. But I guess table it for next month. So Kara, welcome to the board and be ready for a phone call. All right, 4E. Andy's here, as well as Chuck from Texas Specialty Metals. So the floor is yours, gentlemen. Appreciate you guys being here.
I didn't expect so many people here, but I got a basic synopsis and some other stuff here.
You handed me one. Yep.
I'm ready to show.
Oh, there you go. It doesn't squire here. Thank you so much. I apologize here. Got everything else. Yes, ma'am. Let's see here. Texas Specialty Metals is a specialty metals fabricator. We build parts for the federal government. We've been doing this I've been doing this now for 33 years in a general metal distribution network. My wife grew up in the family. She's the owner of the company, the primary owner. I'm the secondary owner. We're, as you can see on the card, small, women-owned, economically disadvantaged women-owned, Hub Zone certified, and Native American. We're going to be applying for an 8A. The government loves the set-asides. I'm not sure if you're familiar how they work or not, but there are 5 basic criteria that the government likes to set aside for certain aspects of business. The government buys everything, the federal government, everything from toilet paper to rocket engines. And they set aside certain criteria. For example, 25% of all purchases from every separate buying entity in the government has to go to small business. 5% for woman-owned, 5% for veteran-owned, 5% for Hub Zone, and 5% for disadvantaged. So in those criteria, we meet all but one. We aren't veteran-owned. The scenario with what we're doing is that we don't necessarily pride ourselves on that. We pride ourselves on the fact that we have a 100% quality score for everything we've ever shipped to the government. Now, thankfully, we've got some money, so we're able to pace ourselves in how we do business. Texas Specialty Metals actually started in 1998 when my in-laws, who owned the company, started that company when they sold another company. Long, involved story. The short version of this is that it was mothballed till 2010. Christy and I moved down here from Colorado to be near them because they're getting old. And unfortunately, Christy's mom passed away just 2 years ago and transitioned the business to Christy as part of that. So between the 4 of us, there were more than 160 years of experience in the industry. We know we can't do everything, can't be all things to all people, but we know what we can do, and what we do well. And that's why we get a 100% quality score in everything we've delivered. Now, the reason I mentioned quality and value, this part here goes into a submarine. This is what makes submarines quiet. So if you think of, if you have bubbles, you know, like in a bathtub or in a lake, you hear blah, 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 blah coming up. And if you open up a bottle of champagne, it's much quieter than a bottle of Coke. And that's because of the bubbles that come out when they purge air out. It's like makes a fizzy noise rather than a blub, blub, blub. That's what this is part of a component of. We got a request. I was just selling sheets. So think of it, our business like a lumber yard, like Lowe's for raw materials, but we sell metal instead of plywood and 2x4s. And we do have service capability to be able to do things like this with a laser table. And they came and said, hey, you know, can you produce this? We need it in 5 days. And we're like, yeah, sure, no problem. So they said, okay, well, here's a purchase order. We sold this for $600. Turns out that our previous competitor, General Dynamics, sold it for over $2,000, and it took them 6 months to make it, where it took us 5 days at a third the cost, basically. So that was really good. The government said, okay, can you do it again? So we did it again and again and again. Now, we build the whole component, not just these plates. So it's a tube about this long, and there's 50 of these plates and some other components that go inside of this. We did that, started in 2018 with 1, 2019 we got 1, 2020 nothing, 2021 we got 2, 2023 we got 35. So we're growing. We have a little 5,000 square foot place over in Meade, and we're just bursting at the seams. We do everything from these components to raw materials, so we need a lot more space. We have truckloads of material that come in, and then we do onesie-twosies as well. We're transitioning our focus more to these kinds of items, and the reason that that's a really important thing. In our industry, which there's a letter that came out from Kiplinger's that's basically saying defense budgeting is going way up, good or bad. But the scenario is that there aren't enough people to fill those requirements, especially people who supply 100% quality. You know, most people, if they can get by with 95%, the government loves that. That's still a green light, and that's decent. But when you put a part into a submarine or to a spacecraft or an aircraft, You don't want 95%. You want to make sure that it's right. And that's what we really pride ourselves in. So I don't know if any of you know Ron DiGiacomo with the Kaimichi Center. He's kind of an advisor to us, and he brought something to the table the other day because of our quality score that Raytheon at McAllister is currently brokering out about $50 to $60 million worth of stuff, 20 to 30 million directly with Tempe, Arizona, and with the Lemon Avenue facility in Dallas, another 20, 30 million. They closed Lemon Avenue. And the lady, Michelle Robichaud, who works at Raytheon MCAP, had approached him and said, Ron, do you know anybody who can produce these parts who's good? And he said, yeah, this is the guy that pops into my mind. If you need a recommendation, please feel free to call Ron. But he said, yeah, I want to hook you up. I've actually met Michelle several times, and the only reason she didn't do business with us in the past is that we didn't have a particular certification, which is part of the ISO, or International Standard Organization. And we've applied for that, and also what's called an AS9100, which is an aerospace certification. So we can actually do more with that business, with Boeing, with Lockheed, with Raytheon, and all these other aerospace companies that are here in Oklahoma and in Texas. We can bring a lot of that business here. Also talking with Ron and his boss, and I want to say his name was John, or is it Josh? I don't recall. He is part of a workforce development coordinator type guy. And one of the things that our machinist, whose name is Brent Nelson, who's one of the 1% guys, you know, I can machine, but I'm not perfect. He's perfect, you know, and again, it's the type of thing where we inspect and inspect and inspect and make sure that it's right before we ship it out. With that in mind, Michelle contacted us. We've got an appointment with her on the 23rd, and with the Oklahoma Economic Development Group that she's part of and Ron's part of, to bring that business back to Oklahoma. And that's the whole point that really pushed us into wanting a much bigger space. With this will come, in some of the plotting that we sent over to Paul, was that we're looking at building several different buildings because we're trying to build a campus. In the campus, we'll have different fabricators. We'll have just regular metal workers. We'll have a machine shop that is dedicated to Raytheon if we get that job, which I'm about 95% confident that we're going to get it. We have another scenario with just general metal distribution. We do purchase from Commercial Metals Corporation, which has a rebar and a fence post deal here. One of the things with our AS9100, and then when we apply for what's called an 8A certification, is all of the road work that's coming in with the development work that's being done here for the infrastructure for the United States, is that we'll be able to sell direct to like Austin Bridge or Mario Sinicola and the people that lay these roadways. And that's a huge opportunity that Commercial Metals actually came out and visited with Chuck and I just a few months ago and said, you know, we're really interested in getting you involved with this for several reasons, for the incentives, for the quality, and the other things. For example, every 100 feet per lane of highway uses 1 truckload of steel. And if you think of the number of miles that are coming up from Dallas that are going to come up to here, and what they just did in what's that, Colbert and Calera, and all the road work that they're doing, there's miles and miles, truckloads and truckloads and truckloads. And of course, the economic benefit to do the mill work and do some of the other work and bending and certifying that stuff is a big deal. But let me get back to the Raytheon thing. That would be a dedicated facility. We know the people at Lemon Avenue. Brent Nelson, the guy who's our machinist, has done a lot of work with them, and there's opportunity there to bring people that used to work at that facility, that bring the equipment, and working with Raytheon as a minority business. They have grants and special programs where, since they're closing that facility as a prime contractor to the government, they will be able to support us and supply us with that material and equipment at a fraction of the cost. Rather than liquidating it at an auction, they'll say, okay, here, give us an offer and we'll supply it. We'll bring it up there, we'll set it for you, we'll put it in place, we'll supply the training for you to work on that, which is great. And the next segue of this is that we have, with the workforce development deal, we want to start training people. Because in our industry, in the trades, have you all seen Mike Rowe, you know, with his TV show and all that stuff, Dirty Jobs? There's a real deficit in this industry for highly skilled people. And what we would bring isn't just the general $10 an hour guy. We're going to be bringing people that are in that 1% mark, the best of the best. And with Brent and with Chuck, we have the ability to train these people. And through a, what would I call it, a curriculum that's established by us and by the workforce development through Kaimichi, that we would have the ability through an apprenticeship program to train people to be better. I mean, this is the type of stuff you can't get educated at a college, you know, or a tech program. You can, I mean, everybody like me, I can go to one of those programs and I can stick metal together, welding, I can machine things, which is great for 99% of the work that needs to be done, but this work is the 1%. So we need to train people, we'll vet people, we'll bring them in, we'll train them on how to run this equipment and on how to produce these kinds of products. Bring some of that back to this country. My family has another company that's Train and Carrier Corporation, air conditioner companies out of Tyler. Their company's called Storage Services. And I'm not related to that, but they do third-party logistics. And third-party logistics is a huge opportunity. What they do is they store from the vendor compressors, like Dayton compressors and motors, and all the components that go into making air conditioners in Tyler, Texas, where they'll get all the stuff in order, hold it for the vendor, then they'll release it on a just-in-time basis. And we get a bill of materials we have to supply to Train in order for them to build that air conditioner within 2 hours. So they get us the bill of materials, we load up all the stuff into the big watermelon boxes and bring it over to them for them to be able to produce that product, again, within 2 hours. Bringing that here is another thing, which is why I'm interested in more property as well, and potentially something we'll talk about later, but an opportunity at the airport. I've been asked by Tinker Air Force Base to look at doing third-party logistics for obsolescence parts. And the segue with that is, that was an obsolescence part. General Dynamics didn't want to make it anymore, and they had a rudimentary drawing that was microfiche. We redrafted the drawing and put it into today's modern format for them to be able to put it into a computer or into a machining center and push a button and print and go. Now, of course, the expertise is making that happen. But in this scenario with the 3PL, a short example is F-16 aircraft. There are 15,000 F-16s around the world. And they need to be on different states of readiness, or they are in different states of readiness. One is the guy or gal at the airport, at the Air Force Base, needs to be able to get in that jet and go within 5 minutes. There's another one, they have 24 hours. That airplane needs to be brought up to speed to be able to fly in a scenario within 24 hours. Then another one is 72 hours, and then they have 90 days. So the situation with these in these just-in-time products and reverse engineering is a lot of that's legacy aircraft. And again, it's all around the world. Legacy aircraft are in many different states of readiness. And now with the government having put down, when Trump was in office, like I think it was $25 billion to bring the F-16s up to speed, rather than spending a couple of $1 billion a piece on like an F-35 or an F-22. We've got the best combat aircraft in the world. So we've been tasked with reverse engineering, like we did with some of those parts. I showed you the one with the little bomb door thing. Oh, not the bomb door, excuse me, fuel door deal. That type of thing, it's a very simple part. We get a part, we put it on a piece of equipment that we purchased. I want to pass that around. That's just a flow device that goes into a little trap door. So when you're flying the jet and they open the trap door, it doesn't just slap open, it goes very slowly. They put a highly viscous oil in there to make it so it slowly opens and closes. Anyway, those types of things, they're seemingly nothing parts, but Lockheed Martin was selling those for like $1,000 a piece. And it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of components that go into that part. You know, we sell it for about $300. And it's again, a pretty decent thing for us to do. But the guy at Tinker that I work with asked us about the third-party logistics, and they have, if you think of, remember in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where they wheel the Ark of the Covenant into this a massive abyss of a warehouse, they have about 20 of those up at Tinker, and they don't want to run them all. They want to contract those out. And there are a lot of big companies like URS and UPS that actually do those kinds of things. But with our expertise in that, they've offered, hey, you know, let's take a look at this list. They sent me an Excel spreadsheet with about 15,000 parts in it. And in that scenario, actually it's 15,000 aircraft, about 12,000 parts. But with that scenario, it's like, okay, what do you think you can do really well? So we're taking a look at what we can do well, and we want to build a warehouse just to do 3PL. The thing with that is it would also use the airport and some other transportation equipment, you know, north, south, east, and west on the highways here, plus in an aircraft. If they have an aircraft down, they need a part like that overnight. So we can ship this FedEx, but the bigger parts, we can't do that. On this component here, on the full one, we were supposed to FedEx it overnight to Yokosuka, Japan. It weighed 190 pounds, so FedEx or UPS wouldn't take it. We had to get a special aircraft in to be able to bring this to Yokosuka overnight. So it's a really fascinating thing, and it's just kind of that one that makes you ponder, what are our capabilities? What do we do really well? Well, we did that really well, and that was something that, you know, we got a nice thank you phone call from Yokosuka saying, great, good job. Can you do 3 more? So now we're in the process of building 3 more, and they're due on the 15th. And I don't know if we're going to make it, but we're going to work 24 hours a day to make sure that happens. But in essence, what I'm getting at is we've recently become very busy. We've done great quality work. We want to continue to do that. We need a lot more space. We have this Raytheon project we're looking at. We've got to bring in a couple more people pretty quickly. We'll probably hire 10 people before the end of the year that are higher quality jobs. Again, not just typical warehouse type people. You know, we're talking about the $50,000 to $100,000 type job, which will have a decent economic impact to this area. We want to hire people locally. We don't want people coming from Texas or whatever. We have great incentive not to do that as well. But that's just the beginning, and I know I've spoken in a scattered way. If you have any questions or thoughts or whatever, please ask me. You know, we're just trying to build the best thing we can build here and start with square one with building a warehouse. We're looking at the country club spot next to UPS, and we know we can start there pretty quickly and get in there before the end of the year, which would be great, and you know, start plowing, making it happen. You have any questions, or did I really kind of gap some stuff there that are making you think this guy's crazy? Because I am. But
Andy, where do you sit as far as number of employees today versus end of year?
I'm saying at least 10 by the end of the year, decent paying employees.
And today you're at?
I'm sorry?
5?
No, today we have me and Chuck working here. My wife does the bookkeeping down in Texas at our house. But yeah, so that's what we're doing right now. So we're looking to make a change to move up here too. So that's something that'll happen in the future, but one step at a time.
Very good.
The third party that he was talking about, the third party logistics, that warehouse will be full of aircraft pieces, and we'll have to have APs that actually keep everything certified and in compliance. We'll have 30 to 40 real people that will be doing all your certifications for aircraft readiness then.
AP,
That's one of the huge things.
Oh.
AP is aircraft and power plant certified people, which actually they teach over here at the school. So we could possibly take people from the school and work them to train, but we'd be doing regular airplane parts, turbine aircraft parts, also non-engine parts as well. But yeah, the other part of this with Tinker, which they actually do at level 3 down in Greenville, Texas, they have a whole ramp full of parts, and they have to maintain those parts to maintain that readiness. So there's ongoing maintenance work that's being done, visual inspection work. In fact, the inspection work is probably 90% of the work that goes on. So they'll take like wings, spars, other parts of the aircraft, landing gear. I was speaking with Mike Lifestee, who's the general manager of the FBO down in Perrinfield, North Texas Regional, and walked into his hangar, and there were 15 jet engines from when the reserves left. And they just left them there. and he's getting paid a couple $100 a month just to store those engines. But he didn't have the people in-house to be able to maintain them. And, change the oil as it needs to be changed, rotate them every month to make sure all the parts are moving and fluid. So these are the types of things that we want to bring in as well. And we have the ability to do that in this new building that we're planning out. So we could put those items in there. It'll be a quality control. It'll also have climate controls. It'll be protected from, other things. So we have a higher standard of care that we'll offer to the government to be able to do that. And of course, if we can do the maintenance and all that, then we have that state of readiness where if they need it, we can put it on an airplane and go. My son's best friend works for a company that does gas tank repair for aircraft, and he works like a doctor. He's on 48-hour windows where he's on call. He'll get a call 3:30 in the morning. We need you in Turkey today. They'll get him on an airplane. He'll fly Space A out of Fort Worth. That's space available for the military. They'll get him on an airplane and send him out there. He'll be climbing around in the tank within 12 hours. And then he'll have that airplane repaired and off it goes. Now the reason for that is what's called opportunity cost. And the scenario with that is every minute that an airplane is sitting on the ground, it's costing in what could have been income by sitting there. Airplanes generate thousands of dollars a minute, literally in some cases, but in an hour, thousands and thousands of revenue dollars that go through that. And for every minute it's sitting there, it's costing them more because of that loss of opportunity. So the faster they get somebody there, get it in, get it back up in the air, the better off they are. And we'll be providing that kind of service eventually with that 3PL. Just on little parts like this. So.
Other questions from the trustees?
Just one more thing to add.
Yes, sir.
The end of the year, I hope to have about 10 people developing this with this campus. That's just what I want to have. We have a commitment from a machine shop, also from Raytheon. That guy at the machine shop does Raytheon work. We're going to put this up here. I don't know how many people will be in there, but right now, it'll probably be about 1.5 years before they get that one going. But that's probably going to have 20 to 30 people that'll be decent paying jobs too. Not $10 an hour, but skilled blue collar workers. The type of machinist I'm talking about, 50 to 100,000 a year, easy. And that's dependent on what Raytheon brings up. If they're Raytheon employees, then they're 120,000 a year for their machining. That's, when you get into that 1%, that income curve goes way up. And, that's something that's really exciting. The 3PL thing, as Chuck was saying, that's something that's on the second burner right now because we have these things to do first. But that's something that would be easily probably 30 to 50 employees pretty quickly on that to maintain what's going on there. Our business here, again, 10 to 15 people by the end of the year. And then we're looking at, so we have the metal distribution, the metal fabrication, the machining, and the Raytheon, and the 3PL. So in footstepping this, our metal distribution center first with the machine shop that does these parts, then the Raytheon project is second. And I'll know more about what the status is with that and how that's going to proceed after the 23rd, after my meeting.
Very good.
So thank you so much for the opportunity. I really
Thanks for your time.
You can tell
Exciting.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
We've actually been talking about this for over a year. We had dealt with the previous
2 years now. It's 2022
Yeah.
with Lisa.
So, well, again, we look forward to discussing it. I think it maybe later on again, and I'm sure Paul will be working with you on next steps. So, again, thanks, Andy and Chuck, for being here. For F, consider review DIA incentives for businesses. Paul, do you want to give us an overview of what that looks like?
Looking at the Oklahoma Quality Jobs, I talked to someone at the Department of Commerce, and I was wondering if we could look at incentives that were kind of would be connected to the Oklahoma Quality Job. We have the forgivable loans, and I'm just looking at, instead of going the forgivable loan route, we more of a year after year based on performance approach. I mean, I just want to review the incentives we have, look at what other people do, see if, and also the targeted industries. You know, we've had a request from a call center. You know, is that one, you know, that type of industry, is that one that we want to assist or not? I mean, I think if we had more of a focused kind of a handout or a defined incentive program that we could put on our website and people could see, and I think it would, and also maybe connect to the Oklahoma Quality Jobs. There are a couple of cities, Oklahoma City and Muskogee, that have a similar type incentive program to the Quality Job. What I like about the Quality Jobs is that it pays for performance, and at the end of each year, for the jobs actually created, you know, based on the wages paid, then there's an incentive that is earned. When we give forgivable loans, if one ever got in default or didn't create the jobs, then it puts us in an awkward position of having to go after our local industries, which you know, would not want to be in that position. And on a quality job, that's not likely to happen because the jobs, it's based on the performance of the wages that have already been paid. So I'm just thinking it might be a good time to rethink our incentive program. And I don't know how we got to where we are. Maybe just kind of developed over the years, but I'd like to do more of a analysis of what other cities are doing, and maybe how we could connect to the quality jobs or the other incentives. One of the things I was a little surprised that I don't know that a lot of our local industries even know what the Oklahoma Quality Jobs is, and it's you can access that all the way down to 15 jobs. You know, if you pay the 15% above the average wage in the county for the small quality jobs, or they pay the average wage in the county for the regular quality job. And it's a pretty good program. And I think if we are connected to that, and the more we're talking about Oklahoma Quality Jobs, and then when they're marketing at the state level quality jobs, then they can say, well, in Durant you can actually get a little better deal, and we might even get some indirect marketing for us even through the state. I just wanted to bring it up for discussion.
I think anything that we come across, just because we did it one way in the past, doesn't mean it's the best way going forward. So,
Right.
Again, just even with the small grants that we did this past fiscal year in 23 of, hey, we gave out money and some people didn't know about it, that they need to turn in the records, and then, you know, once they get their money, they kind of forget that they have to perform versus,
Right.
hey, you need to perform, and then they usually come through whenever money's still on the line. So I think all good things, Paul, and look forward to continued work and figure out from our charter or whatever we need to approve going forward, we can bring that back in front of the trustees. But definitely,
Okay.
thank you for your research and things on that avenue. Any other questions for Paul on 4F before we move to 5? All right, 5 is executive session, A and B and C. So there's a few things that we need to talk about. So is there a motion to move to executive session?
So moved. Second.
Call the roll.
Michael Davis,
Yes.
Brett Rogers,
Yes.
Grace Rudolph,
Yes.
Martin Tucker,
Yes.
Mona Campbell,
Yes.
Kara. Huh? Yeah. We need both.
All right, is there a motion to bring us back out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Call the vote, please.
Mike Davis.
Yes.
Brett Rogers.
Yes.
Mona Campbell.
Yes.
Grace Rudolph.
Yes.
Martin Tucker.
Yes.
Kara.
Yes.
Very good. Welcome back. So, consideration of executive session 5, D, E, and F. No action needed on those 3 items. 6, new business. Trustees, any new business for the board?
I think my last meeting will be in February. Next meeting might be my last meeting.
Very good. Very good. If there's no other new business, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And need a second.
Second.
Come on.
Very good. Call the vote, please.
Mike Davis.
Yes.
Brett Rogers.
Yes.
Grace Rudolph.
Yes.
Martin Tucker.
Yes.
Mona Campbell.
Yes.
Kara.
We are